Marie had just reached for her purse when her mother's voice cut cleanly through the ballroom. "Before anyone leaves," Evelyn announced, raising her crystal glass, "I'd like to recognize the children who truly brought honor to my family." More than 200 guests erupted into applause. Teachers, former students, city officials, and relatives smiled as one by one, Marie's brother and sister were called to the stage. Each received warm embraces, framed photographs, and stories celebrating their achievements. Marie remained, seated at the back beside her husband, Daniel. She already knew her name wasn't coming. Then Evelyn turned toward her. "And as for Marie," she paused long enough for the room to fall silent, "you can go home now. The family photos are only for those who deserve to be remembered." A few nervous laughs rippled through the tables. Someone looked away. Someone else pretended to sip their wine. Marie felt every eye settle on her. She slowly stood, forcing herself to smile despite the sting spreading across her face. "It's all right," she whispered to Daniel. "Let's just leave." Instead of reaching for his jacket, Daniel calmly stood beside her. Then, without raising his voice, he looked toward the master of ceremonies. "May I borrow the microphone for just 1 minute?" The applause vanished. Evelyn's confident smile disappeared. "Daniel," she said sharply, "sit down. This doesn't concern you." For as long as Marie could remember, her mother's approval had always belonged to someone else. Her older brother earned praise for becoming a successful businessman. Her younger sister was celebrated for marrying into an influential family. Every holiday, every birthday, every graduation ended the same way, with Evelyn proudly reminding everyone which children had made her proud. Marie was different. Whenever the family needed someone to care for their late father's medical appointments, she did it. When money became tight during Evelyn's retirement preparations, Marie quietly covered expenses without telling anyone. She spent months organizing the farewell banquet itself, calling former students, arranging guest speakers, confirming decorations, even paying vendors when invoices arrived unexpectedly. She never expected applause. She only hoped that, just once, her mother might say, "Thank you." Instead, she had been asked to leave the very celebration she had helped create. Daniel gently squeezed her hand. "I told you this would happen," he said quietly. Marie shook her head. "Please, don't make tonight worse." His expression remained calm. "I'm not." He glanced toward a thick folder resting beneath his chair. "I'm making sure tonight is the last time they ever rewrite your story." Marie stared at the folder. She had never seen it before. Across the ballroom, Evelyn folded her arms impatiently as every guest watched Daniel walk toward the stage, the microphone now waiting in his hand. Daniel accepted the microphone without hesitation. "I'll only need a few minutes," he said. "You don't need any minutes," Evelyn snapped. "This is a private family matter." A retired superintendent, sitting near the front, frowned. "You just made it public," he said quietly. "Let him speak." The room fell silent again. Marie hurried toward Daniel and grabbed his arm. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this for me." "I'm doing it because you've spent 15 years protecting people who never protected you." She searched his face. There was no anger, only certainty. For the first time that evening, she realized he wasn't reacting emotionally. He had come prepared. Only a few months earlier, Daniel had begun asking unusual questions. "Who booked the ballroom?" "I did." "Who contacted all your mother's former students?" "I did." "Who paid the decorator after the foundation delayed reimbursement?" Marie had laughed. "It wasn't much." "But you paid." "So what?" Daniel had simply nodded. He kept noticing the same pattern. Whenever something difficult had to be done, Marie handled it. Whenever praise was handed out, someone else's name appeared. She never complained. She always found an excuse. "Mom's under pressure." "My brother is busier." "My sister deserves encouragement." Daniel stopped arguing. Instead, he started paying attention. One afternoon, he found a stack of thank you letters on Marie's desk. Every draft included her name as the event coordinator. The printed versions did not. Someone had removed every reference to her before they were mailed. When Daniel asked about it, Marie only smiled. It isn't important. It is if someone made sure nobody knew. She shrugged. I've gotten used to it. That answer bothered him more than anything else. Nobody should ever become accustomed to disappearing. Weeks later, Daniel quietly visited the Retirement Foundation's administrative office to deliver paperwork for Marie. A staff member mistakenly handed him an internal planning binder. Before returning it, he noticed something strange. The original project schedule listed Marie as lead organizer. Later revisions replaced her name with those of her brother and sister. Entire sections had been rewritten. Expenses Marie personally covered had been reassigned to foundation funds. It wasn't simply favoritism. Someone had deliberately rewritten history. Daniel requested copies through proper channels. What he uncovered over the following weeks convinced him this wasn't just about family cruelty. There was something much larger hidden beneath it. He told no one, not even Marie. Back in the ballroom, Daniel laid a thick navy folder on the podium. Its weight echoed across the microphone as it landed. Guests leaned forward. Even the servers stopped moving. Marie stared at the folder. When did you? I finished preparing it yesterday. Evelyn forced a smile. This has gone far enough. Daniel looked toward his wife before answering. No. His voice remained calm. The lies have gone on long enough. Marie suddenly realized the folder wasn't filled with family photographs or private letters. It was organized with color-coded tabs, certified copies, and official seals. Whatever Daniel had uncovered, he had come ready to prove it. Daniel opened the Navy folder and removed the first document. I'd like to begin with something very simple, he said. Evelyn folded her arms. There is nothing you can say that belongs at my retirement banquet. Daniel nodded politely. Actually, Mrs. Evelyn, everything I'm about to say belongs here. Guests exchanged uncertain glances. Several phones rose higher to record. One of Evelyn's former colleagues spoke first. If there's evidence of something important, we should hear it. Evelyn forced a laugh. My son-in-law has become dramatic. Daniel ignored the remark. I'm not here as a disappointed husband. He paused. I'm here because tonight's celebration contains records that are demonstrably false. The ballroom erupted into whispers. Daniel held up the original planning schedule. This document was created 11 months ago. He projected it onto the large screen that had displayed photographs from Evelyn's career. At the top appeared one name. Lead event coordinator, Marie Lawson. Gasps spread across the room. Daniel clicked to the next page. This is the version distributed to every guest tonight. The title remained identical. The coordinator's name had disappeared. Instead, the credit had been divided between Marie's brother, Andrew, and her sister, Claire. Marie stared at the screen in disbelief. I've never seen that version. I know, Daniel replied softly. You weren't supposed to. Evelyn stepped toward the stage. This proves nothing. It proves someone altered official records. It was just an editing decision. Daniel calmly lifted another file. Then perhaps this was another editing decision. He displayed copies of payment receipts. The ballroom deposit. Decorations. Transportation for retired faculty. Audio equipment. Every receipt carried Marie's credit card number. Several guests immediately recognized the invoices because they had worked with the vendors. One decorator quietly stood. That's true. Everyone turned. Marie recognized him immediately. I wasn't paid by the foundation, he admitted. Marie personally transferred the balance after I was told the budget had been exhausted. Another vendor slowly raised his hand. So did she. Then another. And me. The room grew noticeably quieter. Daniel continued. Now I'd like everyone to compare tonight's printed commemorative booklet with the original acknowledgments submitted by former students. He distributed copies to several guests seated near the front. One retired teacher adjusted her glasses before reading aloud. Special appreciation to Marie Lawson for months of tireless coordination. She looked down at the official booklet. That paragraph isn't here. It isn't, Daniel replied. Because it was removed. Page after page revealed the same pattern. Every original acknowledgement thanked Marie. Every printed version omitted her completely. No one spoke. The evidence required no explanation. Andrew finally stood. So what? His voice echoed sharply across the ballroom. We changed the program. It happens. Claire quickly joined him. You're trying to ruin Mom's retirement over credits in a booklet. Daniel closed the folder. If all that disappeared were acknowledgments. He looked around the room. I would never have interrupted tonight. He reached into the folder once more. This evidence only explains why Marie was erased. It does not explain why independent auditors became involved. Several board members exchanged confused looks. Evelyn's face lost its color. Daniel slowly removed a sealed white envelope, stamped with the official seal of the Retirement Foundation. He held it high enough for everyone to see. I received this directly from the Foundation's Independent Audit Committee. Every whisper stopped. Evelyn took an involuntary step forward. Daniel. For the first time all evening, uncertainty entered her voice. Don't open that. Daniel broke the seal. The seal tore open with a crisp snap that echoed through the silent ballroom. Daniel unfolded the first page carefully. This report was completed 3 days ago by the Retirement Foundation's independent auditors. Evelyn stepped toward him. You have no authority to read that. I do. Daniel calmly removed another document from the envelope. It contains my authorization. He handed it to the master of ceremonies. The elderly host adjusted his glasses before reading aloud. Daniel Lawson, legal representative appointed by the Independent Audit Committee for matters relating to the Evelyn Harper Retirement Foundation. A wave of stunned whispers swept across the ballroom. Marie looked at her husband as though she were seeing him for the first time. You never told me. I couldn't, Daniel answered quietly. The investigation required confidentiality until the findings were complete. Daniel looked back at the audience. The audit did not begin because of tonight's banquet. It began 6 months ago after repeated financial discrepancies appeared inside the Retirement Foundation. He projected another document onto the large screen. Several reimbursement requests appeared side by side. Each carried the same approving signature. Marie Lawson. Marie frowned. I never signed those. Daniel nodded. Exactly. He displayed enlarged copies. This is Marie's authentic signature from her driver's license renewal. Another appeared beside it. This is the signature approving charitable reimbursements. Even guests with no legal background could see the differences. The handwriting wasn't identical. The spacing was wrong. Several letters had been formed differently. A retired accountant slowly stood. Those signatures don't match. Another board member agreed. They absolutely don't. Daniel continued. The auditors hired forensic handwriting specialists. He held up the official report. Their conclusion was unanimous. He paused long enough for every guest to focus on him. Marie's signatures were repeatedly forged. The ballroom erupted. What? Impossible. Who would do that? Marie gripped the edge of a nearby chair to steady herself. I was blamed for those reimbursements. Daniel looked at her gently. Yes. And that was the plan. He changed the screen again. This time it displayed dozens of internal emails. Every questionable reimbursement had followed the same pattern. Marie's name appeared first. Approval was processed. Then later correspondence quietly shifted responsibility elsewhere. Daniel connected each piece. The erased acknowledgments. The altered planning records. The reassigned expenses. The forged approvals. They weren't isolated mistakes. They formed one continuous pattern. A pattern that ensured Marie carried responsibility without ever receiving recognition. Silence settled over the room once more. No one laughed now. Andrew suddenly stood. Those documents don't prove Mom did anything. They prove much more than that, Daniel replied. Before he could continue, Claire hurried toward Evelyn. We should leave. Evelyn didn't move. Her hands had begun trembling. One of the Retirement Foundation's board members slowly approached the stage. I'd like to see the originals. Daniel handed him the folder. The chairman examined each certified copy. One by one, other board members joined him. None of them challenged the evidence. Just then, two professionally dressed investigators quietly entered through the ballroom doors. No uniforms. No dramatic announcement. They walked directly toward the foundation chairman. Several guests recognized them immediately from previous foundation compliance reviews. The chairman nodded after reading the final pages. He looked toward Evelyn. I believe the auditors were correct. Color drained from Evelyn's face. Marie watched in disbelief as the woman who had controlled every family gathering for decades suddenly looked smaller than she ever had before. Daniel closed the folder. I've only explained how Marie became the family's scapegoat. He looked toward the chairman. The final document explains who benefited. Before Daniel could continue, the lead auditor stepped beside him holding one final certified file. He looked directly at Evelyn. Mrs. Harper. He placed the document on the podium. Before anyone leaves, there is one last record everyone deserves to see. The lead auditor placed the certified file on the podium. No one moved. No one even reached for a glass. The ballroom that had been filled with applause only minutes earlier had become completely silent. He opened the report and looked directly at Evelyn. This document identifies who benefited from every falsified reimbursement and every alteration of the Foundation's official records. Daniel stepped aside. The findings speak for themselves. The auditor nodded. Over a period of 4 years, multiple administrative changes reassigned recognition for charitable projects, while redirecting reimbursements to accounts controlled by 2 members of Mrs. Harper's immediate family. He turned another page. The evidence does asterisk not asterisk indicate that Marie Lawson received any financial benefit. Every eye shifted toward Marie. She stood frozen. The accusation that had quietly followed her for years disappeared in a single sentence. The chairman of the Retirement Foundation accepted the report and read the summary aloud. The investigation concludes that Mrs. Evelyn Harper knowingly approved revised records that removed Marie Lawson's documented contributions from Foundation archives. A collective gasp swept across the room. He continued reading. Furthermore, the audit determined that reimbursement requests bearing Marie Lawson's forged signature were processed to conceal unauthorized expenditures authorized by Andrew Harper and Claire Bennett. Andrew shot to his feet. That's a lie. It isn't, the chairman replied calmly. The supporting documentation is attached. Claire's face turned pale. There has to be some mistake. Daniel quietly slid another binder across the table. There isn't. Inside were certified bank transfers, vendor invoices, email correspondence, and forensic handwriting reports. Every page confirmed the same conclusion. Marie had never signed a single reimbursement. She had never received a single payment. Instead, her name had been used whenever someone needed a convenient person to blame. Evelyn finally found her voice. I never wanted Marie to be blamed. Daniel looked at her steadily. But you allowed it. She opened her mouth to answer. Nothing came out. One retired teacher slowly stood. I worked beside you for 28 years. His disappointment filled the room. I believed integrity was your greatest lesson. Another former colleague shook her head. Marie organized half of the community programs we praised your family for. We never knew. One after another, former students approached Marie. I'm sorry. I judged you unfairly. I believed what we were told. Marie couldn't answer immediately. Tears filled her eyes, not from humiliation this time, but from relief. For the first time in her life, strangers were giving her something she had never received from her own family. The truth. The foundation chairman addressed the audience. Effective immediately, Mrs. Harper's honorary retirement recognition is suspended pending final board action. He turned toward Andrew and Claire. Your appointments to foundation committees are also suspended. The two investigators quietly informed them that financial records would be reviewed in full. Neither sibling argued anymore. They simply lowered their heads. Evelyn looked toward Marie. For the first time, there was no authority in her voice. Only regret. I thought. She stopped herself. I thought protecting this family's reputation mattered more. Marie wiped away a tear. You weren't protecting the family. You were protecting an image. And you made me carry the cost. Evelyn had no reply. As guests prepared to leave, they no longer surrounded Evelyn. Instead, they gathered around Marie. Former students thanked her for years of unseen service. Vendors refused payment for the evening's remaining expenses after learning she had personally financed so much of the celebration. Several board members invited Marie to help rebuild the foundation's volunteer program with transparent oversight. Daniel quietly stepped beside her. You don't have to prove yourself anymore. Marie smiled through her tears. I think, for the first time, I finally believe that. He took her hand. Together they walked toward the ballroom doors, not because they had been told to leave, but because they were leaving with their dignity fully restored. In the months that followed, the foundation officially corrected every archived record, restoring Marie's name to the projects she had led and reimbursing every personal expense she had quietly covered. Evelyn resigned from every remaining honorary position before the board completed its review, while Andrew and Claire faced financial accountability for the unauthorized reimbursements. Marie accepted an invitation to establish a scholarship recognizing volunteers whose work often goes unnoticed, ensuring that quiet service would never again be erased for someone else's recognition. She no longer measured her worth by applause, family approval, or public praise. She measured it by truth. And as she looked at Daniel, the man everyone had underestimated until the moment he stood to defend her, she realized her mother's farewell banquet had become the beginning of a completely different future. The greatest thing she walked away with that night wasn't vindication. It was freedom from spending another day trying to earn love that should never have been conditional.